Hey, what is going on, guys? In today's video, we're going to be doing something fun with a couple of Ken Squad kits here. If you remember a couple years back, I did take a look at the full set of Ken Squad kits, but that was early releases that I got of those, so I didn't have boxes, I didn't have instructions or anything. Also, the molding of the kits has been retooled from the early copies that I got and then what was actually released to you guys, but I've never covered these here on the channel in their actual like full release form with actual boxes and actual instructions and everything. And so I thought I would do that just to kind of let you guys know kind of here's how they actually come if you were to buy some for yourself. And then I thought we'd do something fun with these, so let's go ahead and get into it for today's video. And so the kits that I'm going to show you here in today's video is just going to be the Barking Hound Space type here and the Barking Hound Jet type. So we'll take a quick look around the box and the contents inside, and then we'll get into it here. We got some really cool artwork here for the front. Really like the art style here that they've gone with for these. On the top of the box, just going to have the titling and some line art there. On the back side, the Ken Squad logo there. On one side of the box here, we've got the front and rear view of a painted sample. Here you can see everything that it comes with and a cool like against the sky kind of background photo there. All the text is going to be here in Chinese. If you go around here onto the other side of the box, you can see some more about the weapons and gimmicks. You've got like the rifle, the bazookas, this kind of jetpack thing that it's got going on there. You've got the shields here. So just showing you a couple of different examples of how you can weaponize this with all of our included option parts. And we will have a lot of those. One thing with these is that it's great that they're all compatible. So like everything's all like cross compatible, which is great. And you also just get like within the box, for just one kit, you get a lot of option parts and accessories and stuff. So in here, it looks like we got a couple of stickers. I think those stickers are for like the option set, but my guess would be that this pack of like decals, stickers, and magnet is just kind of standard. It's the same set that comes in every box. So even though these stickers are not really useful for this particular kit, they're just going to be kind of included in there as well. The water slide decals here are going to have that same kind of like a shark mouth sort of face there, but then we've got a whole bunch of letters and markings here. We've got numbers and letters there in black and then in white, which you kind of can't really see, and then a bunch of other smaller caution markings there in red, white, black, and yellow, and then a couple of logos on here as well, which are pretty cool. And then yeah, this magnet. So the magnet is for the base. There's a kind of cool gimmick where you can put the magnet in the base and make it so that you can like stick the base to a magnetized like vertical surface. So like the front of your refrigerator or whatever, something like that. And then you can like have the kit basically on the base, stuck on the front of your refrigerator, which is pretty cool. And then here we've got the instructions. Oh, how I wish I would have had a nice set of paper instructions when I built mine, because I had to look at the instructions on a computer and also didn't have, I think it was like I didn't have like even the parts numbers or something at the time. So it was a little complicated. This is going to be so much easier here having the parts list. There we've got a couple of sample photos there of kind of like an alternate version. So this is just showing you if you kind of change up the equipment and then also change up the color scheme, just kind of a different option of how you could build this, kind of more along the lines closer to like a full armor Gundam sort of, which looks pretty awesome there. But then on the inside here, oh, there's more in color. I wasn't expecting really all of this much color in here, but you can see sort of like another kind of option, sort of like a prototype design there, which is pretty cool. And there's a little bit kind of like stats about that. And then where we've got the construction here. So the construction looks to be all in full color here, which is awesome. So it goes through the construction with the weapons. And it's going to show you just kind of like the basic way to build it. But then of course, like I said, you can customize it how you please. And there's about the base there. And you can see what I was talking about with the magnet. Actually, this is two magnets. They're kind of thin, so I didn't notice that it was two of them. There's two of them in there. And then you can use those to like stick it, onto your fridge, like it shows right there. This last bit is just kind of showing off this runner, which is basically just a bunch of like option connection parts. And so it's showing you like all these little connection parts that you have that you can use, just kind of the shape and the sizes of them, the dimensions. It looks like pretty much everything is 3mm for the connection points for those. So taking a quick look through the runners, then this set of runners was bagged together. And so I think this is like kind of the standard bag, which you're gonna get in all the sets, because this is just gonna basically have some joint parts here. And you'll notice these are like pre-molded joints there for like, I think these are for like the knees and elbows you'll use those for. And these are what were particularly loose on like the early copies that I got. But as I've heard from everyone that's built them that these are definitely much better now. We've also got this clear runner. Again, this is like just for stand parts. So yeah, again, this kind of bundle of runners here is just basically going to be the standard parts. There's for the base. Here is some more of those joint parts there like we were just talking about. And you actually got some more of those here. And then this is going to be some more like kind of frame, joint parts, hand parts and stuff. So this set of runners is just going to be the same set that you're going to get in like all of the kits. And then our two other bags of runners are going to be all the parts that are going to be like specific for which particular version. So for this one here, we've got runner M1 in clear green. Runner H1 here is going to be some weapons parts. So you can see we've got all these different weapon options, basically like an SMG style weapon, machine gun, a rifle, a handgun, kind of pistol, and then a knife there as well. We got some orange parts here for the visor, and we're going to have a couple different options for the eyes slash visor, kind of depending on what you want to do with that. Some more parts here in the dark gunmetal, and a couple of more parts here in dark gunmetal. Those are going to be for like the V-fin parts, if you choose to use that. I think there's options for the head where you don't have to use the V-fin. It's another option as well. Some more parts here in dark gray. Yeah, we got two of this dark gray F2 runner. We got some parts here in dark blue on runner F1, and this looks like runner I1 there as well. Some more parts here in kind of a medium gray, some bits there for like the torso. It looks like some weapons parts here. We got two of those. And then lastly, our large main runner here in a kind of pale bluish gray kind of color there for like the main armor color that you can see option parts for the head. And so you've got a lot of options just even within one single kit of how you might want to build it. But then obviously, again, you can mix and match between the kits. So let's take a quick look around the box and contents here for the jet type as well. A lot of the contents inside are going to be the same, but here on the front, once again, we can see some really cool artwork for this with all of like the markings on there as well. And a little bit different style for the artwork for these. I think like the first three main ones here, which are kind of styled a little bit sort of like the Gundam, the gun tank, and the gun cannon in a way, all have like this style artwork. The other ones in the line, which would be the jet type, the dive type, and also the option set, which has option parts for some of them, are going to have a little bit different box art style like this. But on the ends, just going to kind of be the same there. Line art there of like the back side of the head and the front side of the head. On the back side of the box, Can Squad logo there. And then this side here is going to be showing the front and back view of the painted sample, everything that's included, or at least that's actually not everything that's included. You have more stuff than that, but a lot of what's included. A kind of cool image there with like the sky background. And then again, on the other side, some more images showing some of the different options. So like you have all these like jet booster, like propellant tank parts you can use on there. You can have like the backpacks, like a separate flying unit there. You can fold the wings down. So a really cool set, this one. And like I said, a lot of the contents inside, especially a lot of the runners and like the decals and everything, we should expect basically the same thing. Yeah, as expected, it looks like the stickers, magnets, waterside decals, this is going to all be the same there. The instruction manual here, it's got gray for the color there for the background, some cool line art again there on the back side for that. In this case, rather than like that kind of prototype image in the hangar, we've got this hangar image here of like kind of the jet backpack with like some parts opened up, the cables plugged in and stuff. So that's really cool. I like the kind of alternate artwork that we're getting here on the inside. And then again, there's another kind of alternate version here that you can make again by mixing and matching some of those parts. So really cool that you've got that kind of stuff here in the manual. Other than that though, we're just going to have our parts list here and then again all of the construction. So this is not really a very colorful kit. It's all looks like in full color. Yeah, it's just that most of the kit is in gray, but you can see there's like a little bit of like some brownish colored parts in there. But for the most part, the kit is just kind of gray, black, and white. But there you go, that's everything for the manual. And so again, that first bag of runners is just going to be consisting of the same joint parts, clear parts for the base, gray parts for the base, a bunch of gray connection parts on two runners there, and then some of the frame and hand option parts there in gunmetal. And then that same runner that we had of these weapons parts, like the pistol, rifle, machine gun, SMG, knife, there we've got two of this runner, so a ton of weapon options there. Our clear parts in this case are gonna be in clear red for some of the visor option and other clear parts there. We've got two of this same runner that we saw before with like the different thruster bell parts and stuff on there. That's here in gunmetal, two of those. Parts in gray here for like the eyes, which would be kind of a weird option, but you've got those. We've got a few more gray parts here for like the antenna, like head fin part there, and then this part for the backpack. Our large main runner for the armor is going to be here in gray as well, and then some more parts here in gray, some more armor parts for the feet, skirt armor bits, and a little bit more. Some more parts for the backpack, mostly it looks like here in dark gray. These two runners are going to be all of our fuel tank parts there for the most part, it looks like. Yep, that's pretty much everything there. And then a couple of parts here in brown, but that's it. So yeah, definitely not the most colorful kit. Right, and then so here is the kit all built up. I can say after building this one, the fit and everything is definitely much better on this one than like the early prototype ones that I had, which the fit was good. I mean, it didn't really have like any major issues, just like some of the joints in particular were a little bit loose. This one though, very, very solid. So anyway, just take a closer look around this. Actually, those couple of black stickers that were on the sticker sheet are for the eyes on that clear part to mask off like the kind of, to make the black part around the eyes, just so it's not all clear green up in there. But you can very easily just paint that. A lot of really cool details on this. Love all the details here. The hard points on it are basically going to be the elbow and kind of knee joints there. So you have that circular little cap piece, but if you remove that cap piece, that'll give you a 3mm hard point here, basically on like the side of the elbow. And then around here on the back skirt, there's another 3mm hard point there, as well as on the back of the head. These backpack parts, the backpack does tend to pop off a little bit easily on this one in particular. So definitely just gonna go ahead and like glue that part on later. Plus these joint parts for this kind of extendable arm here out the back are a little bit tight, but this part with this thruster belt on there, let me just remove the backpack off the body here for a second, because these joints here for this articulated arm with this thruster belt here on the back is kind of tight. So moving this around, you kind of need to move this around, get it into like the position that you want, and then putting it back onto the backpack. That's at that point, it seems like that's going to be kind of a little bit easier. Something like this, and then back on the back of the unit here, something like that. So anyway, this is just one option. Of course, we do also have the option of using these shield parts here. So you could use a connection part to, kind of struggling to hold this in my hand, to connect this here to the side of the arm, just using a hard point into the side of the elbow, like I mentioned, so it can just be just shields on the arms there like that. The other option is actually replacing the thruster bell here on the backpack with the shields, and that's how you get these kind of backpack mounted, sort of like Thunderbolt style shields there on it like that, like you see on the box art. So those are pretty cool. We've got our stand here with a few different options for this. You can either use this kind of long base piece within like a shorter connection piece at the top, or you can use this extension piece here at the top if you wanted it to be like really far out, or you can use, instead of this like larger, longer base piece, just a smaller one like this. So you've got some options with that. I put these connection pieces on here as well. This would be for like connecting multiple bases together. These ones that I can't seem to get off now. I'll have to try and pop that off. But anyway, you can see we have these attachment points all around the side, so you can attach multiple of the bases together if you need. And then you've got a hard point in the center, and then hard points actually around the corners as well, but those are just plugged up with some parts there that you can use to plug up those holes if you wanted to. So you can plug the middle one too as well if you wanted to not have any like of those 3mm hard points here in the base plate, but that's going to be used like that. And again, you can put the magnets in the back and stick this to your fridge. Oh, also you can store some of the extra parts here, like this is just another piece. So this one here has a little ball joint on the end of it, this connection piece to plug the kit onto there into the back skirt. This one's just a straight peg. So yeah, that'll just plug into the kit here, something like that for display. And then for like the standard set of weapons, again, we've got the knife here, the pistol weapon, and remember that circle there in the middle, that can be popped out, and you can use this to attach it onto a hard point just by omitting that little circle piece there in the center. And all the weapons, other than the knife, have that here. So the SMG weapon has that as well. The rifle weapon here, and the long rifle, kind of sniper rifle weapon. So these are like the standard weapons that like basically all of these come with. The specialty weapons we have with this one is this set of bazookas. Now these are kind of cool. You have this piece here with this handle up at the top that joins the two of them together, but you can have them separated if you want to. So if you just wanted to have one, or you wanted to have one in each hand, you can separate them like that. So this back part can actually close up or extend out, like whether in use or not in use. Or if you just want to have this as like back mounted cannons, you could do something like that and just have that back part closed up or extended, whatever you want to do with those. So pretty cool design here for these. You can also use it the other way around, just remove the barrel at the back and just have this held in hand as like a kind of a larger pistol weapon here like that, or just keep the barrel part kind of in there and just use it kind of as a bazooka or like laser cannon, something like in the opposite direction like this. It could work like that. or like that, just depending on how you might want to use that. And I think that's basically it here for the Barking Hound kit, for the main kit. The articulation on these is pretty nice. Let me get it off the base here and I'll show you. Obviously it's going to be a little limited, but like here at the elbow, you've got a single joint that'll give you about 90 degrees there. The backpack just fell off again. With that skirt armor rotated up, lifted up, you can bring the leg up to the front. And again, the knee is going to have about a 90-degree bend there. The feet are just on little ball joints. You got really nice detail up underneath the feet. The hand option parts, I guess I should mention that you've got open hands like this, and then obviously a set of weapon holding hands for the left and the right. That's going to be it for your hand options. So no closed fist options, unfortunately. We've got rotation there at the base, and then obviously a pretty good range here for the neck movement up and down, side to side there. And again, just really nice detail throughout on this. And then one other thing I'll show you too is just for a size comparison, how this is going to compare to your average HG. So this is a 144 scale HG ARC 78-2 Gundam, and you can see it almost looks like a master grade in comparison just for how big it is compared to this little guy, with our Can Squad kit coming in at just under 3 inches, about 2.5 inches tall. So for another comparison, here it is with the Ventus Vector, which was another very small scale kit that we took a look at there from Chic Mainland. And this is even smaller than that. So you can tell it's definitely going to be a little guy, but actually the option parts and weapons and stuff should all be compatible, because that kit was also based around just the standard 3mm peg. So like this is one of the cannon weapons from the Ventus kit. Because of the extra peg and the handle this one has, without any modifications, it's going to be kind of a little bit awkward, but you can just kind of see for an example how the weapons would be compatible if you wanted to like mix and match some weapons. Also anything from Kotobukiya, anything from Bandai, anything that's using that 3mm peg hardpoint system is going to work with this. It's just that it's going to be like larger. Stuff from the 3 minutes project line from Chic Mainland would be good for just like option parts, I think. Right, so then for the jet type, here it is. I want to show you these just side by side first, just to compare, because most of the kit is going to be the same for the base body here. The front skirts, the torso, the shoulders, the arms generally, the legs are all going to be the same, just in different colors. The head is mostly the same, except instead of the V-fin parts there in the metallic black, we're just going to put this kind of face cover part here with this big fin there on the top, is basically what's covering the eyes here. So if you remove that here, you can see it's like the same face underneath, minus the V-fin parts. And although you do have optional different parts for like the sides of the head, that's going to be for, I think it's for the dive unit, you could absolutely use those. But here, as you can see, like around the back, the back skirt's also going to be different here for this version. So it has this kind of back skirt, which is more suited for like the flight type. But again, you do have that part in this same like original version if you preferred. But of course, the other main difference is going to be the backpack. So here it is. You've got this where you can put this on the landing gear. The landing gear is not really going to hold it up if you have the fuel tanks on the back, just because it's going to make it very back heavy. So if you had this just like this, it's going to be like falling back like that. But if you don't have the fuel tanks attached onto the back, the landing gear works pretty well if you wanted to just have this parked, but obviously that's not very fun. So this can also just be plugged onto the back using that hard point there, and then the wings can be rotated up and down this way as well. And so this is just basically going to become the backpack with the fuel tanks and the wings there. And the front part of this, when we remove that off there, like so, this is ultimately just not really going to be used. As far as I know, there's not really anywhere else that you can plug this onto here. It doesn't like plug onto the back skirt or anything else like that. But the backpack, once this is attached on, the other thing that you can do with this is on the underside of the wings, you got this little part right there. And that's basically for under the wings to be able to hold on to some weapons. So you can put weapons up there underneath the wings like that. So it can be one on each side. So that's why this set comes with 2 sets of those weapons. So you've got basically 2 of the rifles, 2 of the pistols, 2 of the SMGs, etc. And so those will clip up underneath the wings there too if you wanted to. Otherwise, going to come with the same parts here for the base. And as I was saying, you can clip these together just like that, put them together like that, which is pretty cool. And we've also got some options here for the fuel tank. Like if you wanted to like omit this thruster bell on the end and just make this into just basically kind of a longer fuel tank, something like that, you can do that. Or if you didn't want this part like with the little verniers there on the end, you can also just have this like that. So you have all the parts to make 6 of the shorter type fuel tanks, but if you wanted them to be extended longer like this, you only have these extension parts. You only have 2 of those. There's 1 on each runner, and so you could only make 2 of like the longer type fuel tanks if you wanted to, and then you'd have to like glue it so it's like actually straight, because kind of you have to get this lined up just right so it's straight. And there is going to be seam lines on these parts here, unfortunately. And I've not yet tried removing those to see if regular thin cement is going to work on this plastic, because I think that this is ABS plastic. I'm not entirely sure yet, so I'm just going to have to test that and find out. That is something that we'll cover here in a little bit. But with the backpack attached to the back, the jet type here, or the flight type, is really cool. I like this kind of like low visibility color scheme that it has going on. It might be a little bit boring for some people. It's definitely not a very flashy color scheme by any means, but obviously you can paint these. And on the note of painting them, I think the color separation is pretty nice on these to be able to paint them. Although obviously a lot of these little details, like the little vent details in the front of the chest and little bits, you're going to want to do a little bit more kind of like detail painting on these. I think too would definitely help bring out a lot of these little details, like little cameras and stuff too. So that's going to basically do it for the kind of like review portion of this video. Like I said, I just wanted to kind of revisit these kits now that they've had like an official release, and they've actually been out for a little while, but I got them way early. So I did my review like, it was like, seemed like almost a year before the kits actually came out. So I just figured I'd take another look at these. They're really cool kits. If you guys have not checked them out, definitely check some of them out on the website, usagundamstore.com. Down below the video, you can find the link for that. There's 6 sets in total. There's these 2. There's the aquatic type of the Barking Hound. There's also the Gauntlet, which is sort of like a gun cannon. And there's the Chariot General, which is sort of like a gun tank, sort of. And then there's also an option set. An option set gives you some really cool options of like additional armor and cannon parts and additional parts for the chariot to be able to make that into sort of like a more like a kind of bulldozer slash crane like construction equipment. So like I said, I've taken a look at the full set in the past. You guys can go back and check out that video. But for this video, aside from just revisiting these, I also wanted this to act as the first part of a work in progress, because I'm now going to take these 2 kits as the basis of a little mini diorama with the 2 of these fighting against each other. But I will of course want to customize them, because the main thing with these 2 is that they are highly customizable, being able to mix and match parts. So that's what I want to work on now. And so when thinking how I might want to customize this, I was looking at what some of the option parts have. So this is the instructions for the option set, and you can see like what I was talking about, how it's got option parts there for the chariot. But then for the gauntlet, it's got these extra armor parts, which is sort of like the Alex's like Chobum armor or something like that. So it makes it pretty beefy. And then it's also got this big massive cannon, so you can basically make it like that. So I thought what I might try to do is actually use some of those parts, and actually use, probably that also means you have to use the legs and the chest and the skirt from that kit. So I'm actually probably going to ditch most of the regular Barking Hound here, and might just basically essentially hardly use any of that, maybe the shields, and we'll use some of it. I mean, it's going to be kind of a mix of things, but I think for my ground unit, I want to be like a kind of big, like really heavy duty, heavily armed kit. So essentially like this, but with a little bit different parts, especially the forearms. I want to stick with the forearms of the Barking Hound over the gauntlet. Has a little bit more kind of like a Gundam style forearms compared to those there. Basically want to make something along the lines of like a FAS for the unit on the ground, and then for the jet type, I want to have that kind of like zooming in here from the sky. So we'll have like one on the ground and then one like kind of flying in like this, like they're about to like clash. And so this one, I really want to emphasize like the flight and like the high speed maneuverability of this and everything. So with this one, I think I'm going to combine this with some of the parts from the aquatic type. So the legs of the aquatic type also make like really cool, like big, just like backpack booster parts. So I might lose the wings and add those, or kind of add them both on in a couple of different ways, as I think I might be able to utilize this part here, which is meant for like adding the wheels, just basically just like this connection part. I think I might be able to utilize that for adding like the wings and those big like leg backpack parts onto the backpack of the jet type. So let me play around with this a little bit and see what I can come up with. And okay, so after fiddling around with it a little bit, here we have what is mostly the body the torso, the waist section, and the legs for the most part there of the gauntlet. I added the extra armor on the legs, on the front skirt, on the torso. Added the missile pod shoulder armor for the shoulders, otherwise the arms, the hands still from the barking hound, obviously the shield, the bazooka, the head. The backpack is going to be also from the option set, so the backpack and this back skirt part, so that's going to need to be connected via a wire from the back skirt part up into the backside of the cannon there. Add another little piece here in the cannon so the cannon could sit a little bit lower, that connection piece there. Otherwise, without that, the cannon was like up too high. I wanted to like lower it down a bit, so adding that extra little connection arm there allowed me to get the cannon where I wanted that kind of up over the shoulders. So that's looking pretty good, and I think the plan is to have this on a base sort of up at an angle, something sort of like that. And then for the jet type, I maintained pretty much everything of like the base body and just kind of added everything mostly here on the back. So if you look up here on the head, you can see I swapped the parts on the side of the head just so I could add that kind of like Mark II style Vulcan pod sort of. So that wouldn't fit on the original head design. So as I said, there's different option parts for the side of the head for the dive type, for the aquatic type, and that's because the aquatic type uses that, like I said, Gundam Mark II kind of style Vulcan pod kind of thing there on the head. So I wanted to add that on there, so that's added on. Added this missile pod here onto the arm on the one side, and then added this kind of double harpoon gun kind of weapon here also from the dive type there as well. And then again, yeah, most everything's added here onto the backpack, so I was able to add those leg parts from the dive type here using that part from the option parts set for the wheels. I just had to drill out the holes a little bit. Actually, I had to drill a couple of holes in there to make the connection pieces. Added these parts, which are parts from the backpack. They're kind of like booster pods, kind of like with missile pods here on the side. Those are little missile doors on the side of there. That's also from the backpack of the dive type. So added those onto the side just to kind of fill out the space a little bit. The cannons from the gauntlet, more missile pods over here on the side attached onto the rifles, which are attached onto the wings, which are attached onto the main body here. For all the fuel tanks here on the back, I got rid of, I do have to swap that one out. I have the completely closed piece here, but I swapped out the thruster bells here on the ends of the fuel tanks just to make those just solid fuel tanks. I'm also gonna cut off and get rid of like the little rings there at the top of those just to make those a little bit nicer. There's like a number of like different like small little adjustments that are still going to need to be made, but still got the thruster bells here, and I'm considering putting a larger thruster bell here on the inside of these parts there as well. Basically 2 more of that large one there that's in the center, but 2 more in here and here. I think that would probably look a little bit better. So this guy is kind of loaded up there on the back, and so yeah, I think the idea is I'm gonna have this guy kind of up at an angle like that, and then this one kind of like flying down at it sort of like that. So I just got to get those put on basically a rod on a base to be able to have those kind of doing one of these sort of like that. I think that'll look pretty cool. So just a couple of small things, and then just a matter of getting everything prepped for painting. Not a whole lot of work that needs to go into like seam line removal on these. And on that note, I actually did try some Tamiya thin cement on an extra fuel tank just to kind of try it out, and it looks like it's working pretty well, actually melting the plastic. So this side, I just kind of left that so you guys can see how that looks combined. This side I did go ahead and sand that down. It looks to have gotten rid of the seam line actually pretty well. I need to rescribe out those panel lines there, but I think that should work pretty well. It's just a matter of now having to do that for 8 of them here on the kit. Other than that, I think that's pretty much it as far as like the seam lines. I'm gonna go ahead and work on getting the last touches on these, doing some paint prep, and then in the next video on these, we'll go over the painting and we'll kind of get into finishing these up, hopefully in the next installment. So stay tuned for that. But until then, guys, if you want to check out these kits for yourself, check them out. The USA Gundam store, the link is down in the video description as always. Really cool kits, and obviously a lot of really cool stuff that you can do with these, mixing and matching. So check them out. Hope you enjoyed taking a look at these, kind of revisiting this series in today's video, and hopefully you're excited to see more of this kind of mini diorama between the two. And until then, thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you later. Bye-bye.